What is up, golf fans, and welcome back to another episode of Fairways and Dreams. I'm your host, Jeff Hartman, on this Tuesday podcast where I talk about anything that I want about the game of golf. It's a solo show, and I got to be honest, folks, it was the Masters. We just had the Masters. I mean, of course, we're going to talk about the Masters, and if you follow the podcast for any duration of time, you know that after every major event in golf, I do my 18 thoughts post that event. So in this case, 18 thoughts after the 2026 Masters wraps up, and we know how it ended with Rory McIlroy donning the green jacket in back-to-back years. These thoughts, while they might be numbered 1 through 18 on my piece of paper, some of them are in chronological order. As you can imagine, I am taking notes kind of as thoughts as I go and watch this Thursday through Sunday golf tournament. That's nothing new. Some things might seem out of order. Trust me, it's all going to be talked about as we dive into this. 18 thoughts. Let's get started, shall we? Let's start off with, I thought Augusta National showed up. And I'm talking about the golf course. There's a lot of people out there that have talked about how sometimes, I mean, let's exclude the PGA Championship because I think a lot of people just crap on that repeatedly. But really, ultimately, there's people that think that Augusta National is an easier course than, say, U.S. Open because of the conditions, the Open Championship because of the conditions. Augusta National is like, okay, you want to put us third? Like, let's firm things up. Let's tighten it up for the guys. Let's make it challenging. And what was interesting is when Augusta National showed up, which leads to our second topic, these firm and fast conditions made it extremely difficult. And what was really strange, it had picturesque weather. You had some light winds. It got windy a little bit on Sunday. No rain in the forecast, and it got hot. I mean, on Sunday, I think they had a high temperature of almost 90 degrees down in Georgia, which I'm sure is not the norm, I should say. These firm and fast conditions, you look at someone like Scottie Scheffler. Scottie Scheffler had a early start to the tournament. So he teed off late on Thursday and early on Friday. So on Thursday, he had to deal with the firmer conditions. And then on Friday seemed to be the day that they just kind of said, you know what? Let's let it cake a little bit. Let's let it firm up even more. And so Scotty didn't get the benefit of the early morning round on Thursday, getting the softer conditions. For people that scored well, mainly Rory McIlroy, you ever notice anything about how he hits the golf ball? He hits it a mile high. When you can hit the ball, and I think about 15, the par 5 that's over the lake, that's like the prime example. Scottie Scheffler, Gary Woodland, all these really good players who've been playing great golf this year. They're hitting their shots from the fairway, their second shots on a par 5, and they can't hold the green. And they're hitting sometimes short of pin high, and it's rolling off the back. Woodland and Scheffler both hit it maybe pin high or beyond. It skips off and goes down into the lake in 16. Incredible. I can't remember a time where this has happened. These firm and fast conditions made it difficult, but not for Rory, who stormed out to a huge lead. Why? He hits the ball so high. The ball lands softer. It's coming in at a higher trajectory. I thought that the conditions they were uniformed. I mean, it's not like someone had to deal with a rain delay. It's not like someone had to deal with a rain that happened on course that maybe softened things up. We'll talk about the criticism of the course a little bit later, but firm and fast conditions definitely did ring true. How about we talk about some players that missed the cut? Just some notables. J.J. Spawn, who won the week before at the Valero. The Valero curse continues, and it goes all the way back to the Houston Open. Talked about it last week. I think they said the last player to win the week before was, I think, Phil Mickelson back in the early 2000s. But going back to 2014, the best finish has been Jordan Spieth, who won the Valero and then finished tied for third at the Masters. But J.J. Spawn misses the cut. Akshay misses the cut. Robert McIntyre misses the cut. And this goes to our next topic. Bryson DeChambeau missing the cut was a huge shock, not just to me, to anyone that follows golf. Because let's be honest, Bryson DeChambeau, and he had his moments. I think it was 2 years ago, the Open Championship, he missed the cut. And we all talked about how Bryson's game doesn't really jive well with the link style course. He's more of a, real blunt force trauma is the way I use to describe his game. And he's been in lockstep with the top of the leaderboard at Augusta National really since he left for LIV. And he's competed. Last year, he was in the final pairing on Sunday. He misses the cut. this guy's a little off his rocker, I think, and we've known this. They call him the scientist because he tries different things. When he was talking after his round on Friday about how he just made a new 5-iron on the 3D. Like, what are you doing? I just don't get this part of Bryson DeChambeau. You're telling me that you're going to use like a change of equipment as a crutch for why you perform poorly. Why are you changing your equipment the week before the Masters? That would be like, Scotty Scheffler goes back to his old driver and he drives the ball extremely well at the Masters. That would be like Scotty saying, I'm going to try a new driver this week. Well, what the hell? Haven't played in 3 weeks. Screw it. Let's get out the new tailor-made driver and give it a shot. You don't do that. I don't know. But Bryson not making the cut was a huge shock to me. Absolute stunner. And this is the next topic. It was not a great live event. This event for live golf, whether it was Bryson missing the cut, you had Jon Rahm who made the cut, but really was never a factor in this tournament. And then you get some stuff like Sergio Garcia going off the deep end. And on Sunday, on number 2, hitting the tee marker or just really going to town on the tee box. And he broke his driver on the cooler there. It's just a really bad look. The only player who, and this was definitely the low live golfer of the week, was Tyrell Hatton. Played extremely good golf, especially on Sunday, stormed up the leaderboard. I think he finished 10 under, was the clubhouse leader for a while. I think that's a tied for third finish. So he's definitely going to be back next year, no matter what. As you finished in the top 12 with ties, you get invited back next year. So Tyrell Hatton was the only bright spot for live golf. And I got to be honest, it was not a great event for live. If they were looking to say, look, our guys can compete. Dustin Johnson, non-factor. Cam Smith, it looks like he doesn't even care about golf anymore. Bubba Watson, Sergio Garcia, like all these guys, it was just kind of bleh, eh. Hey, we're all kind of bleh or meh about live golf, but still wanted to bring that up. Let's talk about Rory's dominant start. Man, the guy holding 6-shot lead heading into the weekend. And someone put it on Twitter. I'm not going to take credit for it, but they were spot on. And they said, look, one of two things is going to happen. He's going to pull a 2011 Congressional U.S. Open and he's going to run away with it. And no one's going to come close. And he's going to be iconic for that move. Or he's going to collapse. And it's going to be very reminiscent of previous Masters, not last year when he won. But he did kind of collapse a little bit last year too. And they're going to say it's going to be iconic for the wrong reasons. And that was 100% true, but you do have to give credit to Rory McIlroy's dominant start. He looked prepared for this course. He talked openly about there were times where he said he has no interest in playing in the 3 tournaments leading up to the Masters. So what was he doing? He talked about days where he would drop his daughter off at school, get on a jet, fly to Augusta, play around, and then fly back and be home to have dinner with his wife and daughter. That was his day. He was ready for this. He was prepared for this. It didn't mean it didn't come without some speed bumps, but what a dominant start by Rory McIlroy. And I think that this past Saturday was one of the best Saturdays that I can remember at the Masters. And I know that's a recency bias, and I know that I'm saying this now and after the fact, but this was when you saw Scotty Scheffler 7 under. You saw Cam Young 7 under. There was some scoring happening on Saturday, except for Rory McIlroy, who did not score well. He was errant off the tee, couldn't find a fairway, was struggling around the greens, and it set up one of those really, really exciting Sundays. Augusta National's course conditions on Saturday, again, they're being debated. There were some criticisms of mud balls. But you got the mud balls because they're keeping it softer. You don't want the firm and fast. Then you also complain about the mud ball. Scotty was complaining about it. Jordan Spieth had complained in previous years. You can't have it both ways. If you want the course to be softer, it's going to be softer, and you can have some mud balls, and you're not having preferred lies. So that's just the way you got to live your life. But at the same time, Rory, with the course conditions, again, the criticism is that there were a lot of people that after Saturday thought that it was almost set up for players like Scotty, players like Cam Young to storm back. Sam Burns, who is right there in the mix to start Sunday. To that, I say Rory played the same course that everyone else did. So for anyone thinking there was a conspiracy theory out there that the Masters wanted a competitive Sunday, which they obviously did, but I can't say that setting up a course condition that might be a little bit softer, and Rory played the same course and there wasn't that rain delay, there wasn't that heavy downpour during the round. How can you say that? I don't know. But Sunday was an up and down Sunday. It was an up and down Sunday. It was a roller coaster ride. And if you watch Sunday's coverage, I mean, you had Cam Young there. Rory falls off. Justin Rose climbs up. Scotty's just kind of treading water at 9 under. Justin Rose falls off as Rory comes storming up. Cam Young can't make those putts that he needs to really make a run. And then here comes Scotty late. And he finally birdies 15. He birdies 16 and was a half an inch away from birdieing 17. It would have been the only birdie on that hole on the day on Sunday, and almost chipped in on 18 for birdie. He had a little bit of a side spin on that approach shot, and he ends up parring out. He was a half inch away from potentially having a playoff with Rory McIlroy. We'll talk about there, but it's crazy though, up and down. But I want to talk a little bit about Scotty. Too little, too late. His Friday round of 74 was just, you could tell it was so much to overcome. And even though he had a bogey-free weekend, the last time that happened, I think, was the 1930s or 40s. It's been a long time, folks. And the fact that Scotty Scheffler played such consistent golf, the one thing that has really plagued him this year so far leading up to the Masters has been his driving accuracy. He sprayed the driver too much. He went back to his old driver, mentioned that earlier in the podcast. He drove the ball beautifully, got into some issues on Sunday. I thought that was a huge boost of confidence for Scotty to be able to consistently drive the golf ball. He just couldn't make putts. He was lipping out putts. He was missing some shorter putts. He went back to that 2022 Scotty, where it's like, man, this guy's got all the game in the world if he could just putt. If he can find that putter and he can drive the ball well, he's going to be in every tournament that he plays in. But it was just too little, too late. He just had all those consecutive pars after going 2 under after the first 4 holes. He just couldn't buy a birdie. And the par 5s, my gosh, he didn't play the par 5s well. Too little, too late. That's the story for Scotty Scheffler. But Rory, to go to our 11th topic, Rory McIlroy outlasted them all. And there was a time where you're looking, here he comes. Here comes the choke job. I'm getting texts from people, coworkers, family. They're like, oh, is he going to choke? I'm like, yes, the choke job is in. Let's see it. And no, like Rory, that shot on 12, that little sawed-off 9-iron that he hit, what an aggressive line when everyone was just aiming at the middle of the green. Get on the green, 2-putt, and move on with your life for par. He went right after it, birdies 12. That was one of those, this guy's got some serious game shots. Rory outlasted them all, and he is, as our 12th topic says, a deserving champion. Back-to-back green jackets for Rory McIlroy. The last time since Tiger Woods in 2001 and 2002, only 4 people have won the Masters back-to-back years. Jack did it. Nick Faldo did it. Tiger Woods did it. Now Rory McIlroy did it. Again, the last since 01 and 02. Great job. I mean, you have to give him credit. This is not, he didn't back his way into it. The way that he finished, and again on 18 where he blocks his driver to the right. We'll talk about the coverage of that, but still, he scrambles his way for a bogey and he wins by 1. Man, but let's talk about that last hole. I think that last hole was perfectly emblematic of, I thought CBS, their broadcast was rough. They missed a lot of shots, and they also did a poor job explaining what was going on. I was down in my basement watching this with some family, and they were golfers. And so we're watching Scotty. He just finished his 12, he pars, and we're thinking, okay, par 5 13's coming up. Last leg of Amen Corner, and Scotty has to lay up. So he hits his drive. He has to lay up. Okay, let's see what he can do with the wedge in his hands. And so they're going to all these other players. We're seeing Tyrell Hatton. We're seeing Colin Morikawa. We're obviously seeing Justin Rose, Cameron Young, and we're seeing Rory McIlroy. And it's just waiting and waiting. And I'm thinking, what is going on? Why are we not seeing Scotty's approach shot? Meanwhile, on the little leaderboard at the bottom, the little widget on the screen, it's still saying 12 next to Scotty's name, meaning he hasn't finished 13. Okay, so what's going on? Why are they not explaining anything? Well, the answer was that Hao Tong Lee put up a 10 on number 13. Why wouldn't they say on the broadcast, All right, folks. Scotty Scheffler, just so you know, he's still on 13. Hao Tong Lee is really struggling on that hole. We're going to get you there before Scotty hits the approach shot. Boom. It's all you got to say. And people like me that are saying, why are we not seeing Scotty Scheffler's approach here on the third shot on the par 5 13th? That answers our question. Not to mention, let's also go back to that same hole. Justin Rose is in the fairway. He's going for it in 2. And he hits a shot. This is not the only time. The tracer was not even close. The tracer looked like he was missing in the bailout to the right of Race Creek, and he was going to have to approach. Meanwhile, the guy placed it right at the pin. It goes right by the pin. Now, granted, he 3-putts for par, but still, the broadcast was awful. And then let's put a little cherry on top. On 18, Cam Young hits it in the fairway, and we know that Rory blocks it right, and he's in the trees. So we have the location of these 2 golf balls. And it's the final shots, the final approach of the tournament, unless something catastrophic happens. And in Rory's case, something catastrophic could have happened. So Rory sees what he's looking at, and okay, he knows what he wants to do. Takes out an 8-iron, whatever club he was using, and he hits it. And next thing you know, they go to the green side camera, and no one knows where the ball is. No one. You don't see it hit anywhere. Patrons are saying like, oh, like you hear, and there's a little bit of applause. You know, they see where he's coming from. But where's the ball? Cam Young hits it near the patrons. They don't know where's the golf ball. We don't know. In this, where are the spotters? These are the only players left on the golf course. You're telling me CBS, whether it's Colt Nost, whether it's someone else on the course, you're telling me Dottie Pepper didn't say, okay, guys, that's in the left bunker, left greenside bunker. Rory hit a great shot. He got over the tree, overdrew it a little bit, short-sided himself, but he should be able to get up and down, or at least get up and 2-putt for a win. No one knows where the ball is. And then finally, as Rory approaches the green, he goes in and they say he's going to identify the ball. How have we not, as an audience, identified the golf ball yet? I just thought it was a rough broadcast, at least on Sunday, when there was such a jam-packed leaderboard. I wanted to see as many shots as possible. And they were showing Justin Rose deliberating over the shot on number 13 and the missed chip on 12 and all this. At one point, they showed he was requesting people with the blowers to come out and do something. I don't know why, but regardless, Sam Burns was at 1.9 under, and we hadn't seen a shot of his in hours. I just don't like that. But still, CBS, be better. You can be better. All right, Cam Young, let's talk about Cameron Young. I thought he played some great golf, but let's also be honest. Cameron Young got some really fortuitous bounces, not just on Sunday, but also on Saturday, where he hit the ball wayward and somehow or the other it hits a tree and it goes right back into the fairway. Look, the way the golf gods treat you is the way the golf gods treat you, and he was definitely living on the right side of things, but you felt like his good fortune kind of ran out, and you also felt like, man, he just could not make a putt. He just couldn't make a putt when he needed it. The fortunes ran out. There you go. But Rory, like I said, boy, did he make it interesting on 18. And you just have to ask, and I ask myself this all the time, if Scotty Scheffler makes the putt on 17 and is 12 under, and Rory knows, that's the thing with Rory McIlroy. If he has a little bit of a cushion, he's okay. But if Rory knows that he's got that cushion, he's not, it's the pressure. That's what you got to do. You have to pressure him. And no one was able to do that. He kept that 2-shot lead, but Rory did make it interesting. But man, if Scotty would have made that putt on 17, not only would Augusta National and everyone around there, the patrons, would have just exploded, but we would have been talking a playoff, and Rory would have been in a playoff for a second straight year. That would have been absolutely electric. All right, the 16th topic, Justin Rose. Man, I feel for that guy. But doesn't it feel like with Justin Rose that he's always the bridesmaid and never the bride, at least at Augusta National? The guy's a winner on the PGA Tour already this year. He wins wire to wire at Torrey Pines earlier. But man, I think it was the Farmers Insurance Open, I believe is what it was. He's won a major tournament before, but this guy just can't get over the hump. I got to be honest. I feel like he is getting close. Everyone thinks about the greatest runners up ever that never won the Masters. Everyone thinks Greg Norman. I think Justin Rose is there. He's right up there with the shark. I feel for him. He just couldn't make the basic shots at the end of the round. Like, it started in Amen Corner. That's what Amen Corner did him in. He has nothing to be ashamed of. Amen Corner has done in a lot of golfers throughout the years, but man, Justin Rose, always the bridesmaid, Never the bride. All right, 17th. Let's talk about the criticisms of Augusta National. Again, there's a lot of people out there that are saying that there was some type of controversy. Golf is the one sport that, unless you have weather during the round, you can't say that there's anything different about the course unless you're talking about spike marks and the fact that all the players that are in the field have gone through and you're the last group. Rory McIlroy's used to that by now. This guy's been winning golf tournaments for decades. Please. But them to say, like, oh, they're setting this course up on a way on Saturday for the scoring and all that. I'm calling BS on that every single day and twice on Sunday. Rory played the same course that Scotty shot 7 under on Saturday, that Cam Young shot 7 under, that people were really going low. Spare me. I mean, that's all I can say is spare me that talk. Rory didn't hit the ball well on Saturday. He couldn't find a fairway. That's why he struggled on Saturday. So please just save it. Like, just save it. I thought Augusta National Golf Course was well done. It was fair. It was firmer than we're used to seeing for sure. But man, the criticisms, like, can we just calm down, everyone? Just calm down. And then lastly, as we always finish these up, what's next in terms of major championships? The PGA Championship, May 14th through May 17th. That's not too far off, folks. That's about a month away. And reigning champion, Scotty Scheffler, will be in the field. That'll be interesting. Last year at the end of this, I said that Scotty Scheffler will win the 2026 Masters, and I was really close to that. And I do think he's going to win another Masters, but I'm also not going to make a declaration like that at the end of this podcast. We do have to talk about our picks. This was, and I'm going to do this tomorrow on the press podcast. This was the best major tournament that I've had since I started doing these picks. We'll talk about that tomorrow. On Thursday, I'm hopeful to have a third podcast. I don't know what that looks like just yet, trying to get schedules all situated and stuff like that. But still, this is an exciting time. The RBC Heritage is this weekend, and I know Rory's not playing. I don't think his name has not been in the hat even when it was announced earlier this week, but Scotty should be there. Reigning champion is, I want to say Russell Henley, but I could be wrong. No, I actually think it was Ben Griffin. I'll talk about that tomorrow on the press. Hope you all enjoyed this. I know I did. It was a great tournament. Love the Masters. Love this year's Masters, even though I wasn't rooting for Rory. Everyone that listens knows that. But you know how we finished it up. Be safe, be kind, and God bless. Enjoy your day. We'll see you tomorrow on the press podcast. Take it easy.